years since the World Summit of 2005, where world leaders unanimously agreed on early reform of the Security Council. We have not honored this undertaking. South Africa reiterates its call for urgent reform and for a move to text-based negotiations through which an agreement can ultimately be reached. We must address the underrepresentation of the African continent in the UN system and ensure that the voice of the African continent, wherein 1.3 billion people reside, and the global South in general is strengthened in the multilateral system. Concurrent with achieving equitable geographical representation in the UN, we must also address the question of gender parity. Yesterday, we marked the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action at the World Conference Against Racism that was held in South Africa. This remains the international community's blueprint for action to fight racism and other forms of intolerance. We are bound by a common responsibility to fight both the legacy of past racism and the manifestation of racism in the present. Racism, like sexism, like xenophobia, like homophobia, demeans all of us. It undermines our humanity and stifles our efforts to build a world that is rooted in tolerance, in respect, and in human rights. We must use this anniversary to renew our commitment to combating racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerances wherever they are found. Mr. President, the challenges we face are immense. We have to drive the global economic recovery. We have to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We have to advance gender equality and the empowerment of women. We have to address climate change, maintain peace and security, and protect society's most marginalized. Above all, we must close the wounds of poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment that are preventing societies from realizing their full potential. Reformed multilateral system with a strong and capable United Nations at its center. At this defining moment, this General Assembly of the nations of the world is once again called upon to inspire, to guide, and to lead. The United Nations stands as a beacon of hope for all who dream of a better world. Let us together, with the United Nations as our instrument, write a new history for humankind, one of equality, freedom, fundamental rights, and shared prosperity for all, leaving no one behind. I thank you.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of South Africa for the statement just made. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Muhammad Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. I request protocol to escort His Excellency. On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Muhammad Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, I congratulate you on your election as President of the 76th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations. Your election is a special honor for the Maldives and for all small island developing and outlying coastal states. I wish to record Guyana's appreciation to the outgoing President, Falcon Busker, who was tasked with navigating the Assembly during one of the most challenging years in modern history. Mr. President, our world is a troubled place. The peoples of our planet are living under a cloud of uncertainty. COVID-19 has stomped across the globe, taking lives, wrecking livelihoods, and paralyzing economies. And looming large behind is climate change, growing every day in its capacity to inflict even greater destruction and rumination than the coronavirus. Our citizens look to us, the representatives of nations who gather here, to create conditions that will ease fear, erase doubt, and give hope. Yet, what they see are not nations united. They see nations divided. Secretary General Antonio Guterres described our situation well when he said, and I quote, "The pandemic has demonstrated our collective failure to come together and make joint decisions for the common good, even in the face of immediate, life-threatening global emergency," end of quote. The pandemic has exposed the shortcomings of our international system. It has revealed that the system continues to be undergirded by nationalism and which remains the prevailing force. After all these 76 years since the founding of the United Nations, it is not the collective well-being of our one planet and our one humanity which motivates us. It is selfish national interests that drives us. And in pursuit of that selfish nationalism, we overlook the truth of our shared cohabitation on one planet, one earth, and we ignore the reality that what affects one affects all. If nothing in the generations of civilization has taught us that nation states are not an island unto themselves, but are each part of the main, then the experience of the last 2 years should be a salutary lesson. The world will not progress without greed, without war, and without freedom, unless we, the leaders of nations, big and small, recall with commitment the values set forth in the Charter of the United Nations and resolve to be faithful to them. Mr. President, the pandemic has wrecked Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development that the members of this organization adopted in 2015. Development gains have been reversed, poverty has expanded, and inequality has widened. Widening fiscal deficits, mounting debt, reduced fiscal space, and external financial flows have imperiled the capacity of developing countries to attain the Sustainable Development Goals. Within developing countries, the pandemic has upended growth, increased unemployment, and weakened health and education systems. Education regression is now inevitable, given the long period our children have been forced out of the formal classroom and the challenges which many developing countries face in delivering virtual education. Given these problems, economic recovery is essential to returning countries to the path of attaining the SDGs. But such recovery will be painfully elongated and slow unless there is international support in the form of debt rescheduling, debt service moratoriums, provision of soft resources to reboot economies. My government restates its call for increased resources to be made available to states on the basis of their vulnerabilities and not only based on a misleading measure of per capita income. If these essential measures are not implemented, growth in developing countries will not be restored, nor will economic and social policies be realigned along the path set out in Agenda 2030. The repercussions will be felt by the rich nations because developing countries are markets for the goods and services of the industrialized nations and the source of the raw materials. Poor countries cannot buy unless they have the means, and they cannot produce unless they have the capacity. Our world will become a damaged place, reversed to an age of avarice, conflict, and plunder. Surely, such a world that now looms on the horizon is one that all leaders should work to avert, and instead focus their attention on advancing the progress of our one humanity in cooperation and mutual benefit. Surely, that is the world we all want. Mr. President, while poor and vulnerable countries will suffer longer and more intensely from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, rich countries have not been spared. Those who, at the advent of the pandemic, concentrated on making themselves secure, now understand they will not be safe until we are all safe, because the virus knows not and cares not about ethnicity, age, or geography. It will not heed borders. Belatedly, the rich have come to the realization that on our one earth, they need the cooperation of the poor to save themselves. Mr. President, we must all welcome that realization. If it finally mobilizes global cooperation and unified action that our world needs to survive. In this regard, my government welcomed the summit on COVID-19 that was hosted by President Joe Biden. We are pleased that it resulted not only in commitments for joint global action, but also in the allocation of resources to achieve necessary and agreed objectives. Similarly, we welcome the fact that earlier this month, the heads of the International Monetary Fund, World Bank Group, the Health Organization, and the World Trade Organization met with the CEOs of leading vaccine manufacturing companies to discuss strategies to improve access to COVID-19 vaccines in low and low-middle income countries and in Africa. My government is pleased that the heads of the international organizations and CEOs of the major pharmaceutical companies have formed a technical working group to exchange and coordinate information on vaccine production and delivery. These are positive developments which are welcome, even though they have come after millions have died and many more millions still live under the threat of death. The access to vaccines saw the world polarized. I know I speak on behalf of many leaders when I say that we must not now hurt our efforts at ending this polarization of access to vaccines by implementing measures that divide us and curtail our movement based on the type of vaccines our people took. Indeed, our efforts must be focused on full vaccination and addressing vaccine hesitancy. Millions took the vaccines which were available at the time of much uncertainty, and they are the unsung heroes. They must not now be the subject of restrictions based on the vaccines they took. Mr. President, We hold out similar hope that the world's worst emitters of greenhouse gases that are threatening the welfare of all mankind will also come to the realization that in the end it will profit them little to emerge king over a world of dust. The promise of COP15 in Paris have not been delivered. If emissions follow the trajectory set by the current national commitment, there is less than 5% chance of keeping temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius relative to pre-industrial levels, and less than 1% chance of reaching the 1.5 degrees Celsius Paris Agreement target. Large polluters have simply not kept their word, and mistrust now pervades the air. That, Mr. President, is failure, also deception. Recent authoritative research by the Royal Institute of International Affairs paints a grim picture of the future. It forecasts that cascading climate impact can be expected to kill far more people than COVID-19 from hunger, intense heat, flooding, and more pandemics caused by the rise of pests and diseases. It concluded that combined with heat waves and drought, these impacts will likely drive unprecedented crop failure, food insecurity, and migration. All this will drive political instability and greater national insecurity and fuel regional and international conflict. Small island states and continental countries with low-lying coastlines, such as Guyana, will be the first to feel the full brunt of the impending disaster. Yet our countries are among the lowest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions, contributing the least to the harmful and destructive effects of climate change. This is not only unfair, it is unjust. Mr. President, the burden of reducing emissions is not carried equitably. Small island, developing, and low-lying coastal states are punching above their weight in response to the global climate threats. My country, Guyana, is a net carbon sink. Our forests absorb far more carbon than is produced from human activity. But we have not folded our hands and sat back in satisfaction that we have done enough. We are continuing to contribute meaningfully to reducing global emissions and to the decarbonization of the world's economy, even though our country is now an oil and gas producer. Apart from containing the CO2 emissions connected to the industry, we continue to pursue a path of developing energy from sustainable sources. In these circumstances, we feel we have the right to insist on a fair system of burden sharing. Mr. President, innovative and creative ways have to be devised by which the world must act to avert the catastrophe that climate change so plainly portends. COP26 in Glasgow in a few weeks' time is a right and timely place to start. The worst emitters must make binding commitments in Glasgow to stop their profligacy, and they must scale up their contributions to help small and vulnerable economies to build up resilience to the failure to do so will shatter even more any confidence that the people of the world may still have that polluting nations will do the right thing. COP26, not COP15, would become the defining moment at which mankind's future or fate is sealed. The peoples of the world will be watching. Mr. President, Guyana looks towards a post-pandemic era that will reset international relations by curbing territorial avarice and by embracing peaceful cooperation. In this regard, we draw attention to the continued overt threats to Guyana's territorial integrity and sovereignty by the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Just recently, an agreement was issued in Mexico City, by which the contending internal factions in Venezuela renewed a baseless claim to
All right,
neutrality
so
of Venezuela's
we
territory.
have here the
We
protest
have
is going
responded
on.
in clear terms,
What's happening
and I
there at the
repeat
moment?
our
Let's see the
response
crowd that's
now
out there.
in these hallowed
Knowledgeable
halls
before we
in
go back
which
to the
nations
conclusion
of the
of
world
that.
meet in peace and cooperation.
All right, good morning. Good morning,
Guyana
Mark.
cannot be
Yeah.
What is
used as
happening
a
here?
button fight
Originally, we were supposed to be on
for the
Forest
settlement of
Avenue,
Venezuela's
Yeah,
but
internal
but
the
before
political
you get
police.
to
differences.
that, can we see a quick
While
photograph
my
of what it
government
looks like
welcomes
and we get
All
efforts
back
right,
to
so
to bring
there
about
we go.
peace and
this is
harmony
the
within
gathering.
Venezuela,
Give us 45
agreements that
seconds. We're going to
defy
finish up the
international
conclusion
law,
of Irfan Ali's
and
speech in just
processes
about 2
can be
minutes
no
and get
basis
back to you
for
guys right
mediating
there.
such harmony.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Guyana
Mark.
does not promote the use of violence or threats to settle disputes. In a 1966 agreement signed in Geneva, Venezuela consented to allow the UN Secretary General to decide on the means of settlement of this controversy. The Secretary General decided on the International Court of Justice. Both parties are therefore bound by the court's jurisdiction and ultimate decision. Mr. President, we remain concerned about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Guyana restates its solidarity with the Palestinian people and their desire for a dignified existence in their homeland in accordance with a two-state solution. The international community must act to meet the legitimate concerns of the Palestinians who have suffered far too long. Mr. President, the strained relations between the United States and Cuba are also a matter of deep concern to our region. We are convinced that normalization of relations between Cuba and the United States would have a beneficial impact on peace in the hemisphere and greater prosperity for all. Mr. President, I turn now to my own country, Guyana, a land of many ethnicities, drawn from its Amerindian people, people transported from Africa in the genocidal slave trade, people from India who were indentured to labor in a new land, people from Europe who migrated at a time of want and persecution, and people from China who were also brought to work on the plantations. They came with different religions, different cultures, and different perspectives. In the collective of their diversity, the people of Guyana are representative of the peoples of the world. Whilst politically driven conflicts arise occasionally and differences have been exploited for narrow political purposes, my government is convinced that the richness of our people's diversity is a gift to our nation. We continue to build a nation that draws on all aspects of its cultural roots to establish citizens who enjoy equal opportunity in all aspects of our society, a nation that is secure in itself and strong in its outlook. Our intention is to make Guyana an example for the world, utilizing the strength of our diversity for a single tapestry of one nation, which is indivisible, strong, secure, and prosperous. My government has set its foot firmly on the ladder to climb to that pinnacle of success. We are confident that as we foster peace and prosperity within our country, respect human rights, uphold democracy and the rule of law, and abide with our Constitution, we'll achieve these noble goals. Mr. President, it is against this background of ambition for my country that my government embraces the vision set out in Secretary General's report entitled Our Common Agenda. We embrace his views that our nations must be driven by solidarity, that he so eloquently described as, and I quote, the principle of working together, recognizing that we are bound to each other and that no community or country, however powerful, can solve its challenges alone, end of quote. Mr. President, our common agenda provides the framework for the emergence of a post-COVID-19 era, which addresses the world's fragilities, injustices, inequalities, conflicts, eradication of poverty, banishment of racism and gender discrimination, and to realize ecological justice. Guyana looks forward to revitalize United Nations, spearheading the thrust towards a new era in international relations in which the world emerges as a better, fairer, and stronger place for all mankind. I thank you and God bless you.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
All right. You guys, what's happening there at the United Nations headquarters? Clinton Hollingsworth, go ahead. Take it over.
All right, so what's happening out here right now is we are trying to bring the crowd over from the other side, because originally what happened, we were supposed to be on Forest Avenue, but I think the police wasn't properly informed, so the crowd got split up. So some of the folks are here and some of them are on the other side, but right now the folks who are here, they're going around in a circle calling for justice in Guyana, calling for racial equality in Guyana, and to end the judicial killing that is now that we see is now.
Yeah, let's get a bit of the crowd. We're going to get back to that. Let's hear the crowd. Let's see the crowd.
Sorry. Murderer! Murderer! Murderer!
Justice! Can't president! Can't the president! No president at all! No God! The chief! Gotta go!
Yes, they're hearing you.
Then you want it now! Justice!
Now! No justice, no peace! No justice, no peace! No justice, no peace! No justice.
Yeah, it's hard to know that we have to abide with something like this, you know? And it's embarrassing to see our friend yesterday at the United Nations talking about injustice. When they fired so many black people from the job. One thing I heard that people left and go to lunch and come back and the office locked. That is total wickedness. And these people got the heart to come here to speak about injustice and reparation. Come on, you can't fool people. You can't fool people. Let me ask you a question. After the PPP government would have went and voted against racism, vote against the way black people are being treated around the world, only for the president to come yesterday and try to fool the world or tell the world that they're supporting reparation. Do you believe that the PPP government is in support of anything to improve the lives of black people? No. And the thing is, they vote against that right at the United Nations. And they back at the United Nations trying to make we the people fools. But we know what we're up against. So we calling for the unity of the black people, and we said no justice, no peace. As Peter Tosh said, equal rights and justice. All right. Tell me, ma'am, what are your thoughts? Right now you're live on Bench Cop Radio, on Mark Bench Cop's program.
My thought is that I want all these killings to stop in Guyana. Things must be fair for the black people. Just like how you're giving the Indians, you need to give the black soup.
Step forward a little.
You need to give the black soup and stop the killings of our black young men. And stop it! And stop! I need you to stop it! Vaccine killing out a lot of people in Guyana. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it in the name of Jesus! Stop it! Killing, getting killed out in Guyana. Stop it! Not the Indians. Stop it!
I want to ask you a question, sir. When you come back around, tell me, what are your thoughts
Come close so that people could pass. You're live on Bench Cop Radio. What are your thoughts on the killing of that young black brother out there in Dartmouth, Essequibo? Yes.
I think he was targeted and it was a racial profile.
All right, thank you.
No justice, no peace. Guyanese lives matter, all lives matter, black lives matter. The PPP is racist and they need to go. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? What justice?
All right, so right now I have you live here on Bench Cop Radio, Mark Bench Cop's program. Tell me what is your take on what is happening in Guyana, the way the PPP is treating the Guyanese people? We're seeing the reintroduction of extrajudicial killing and Guyana returning to a police state. What's your thought?
My thoughts are few. Guyana needs to get up and address this matter immediately. I don't mean black people, I don't mean Indian people, Guyanese in general. If one party decides to go against the other party, it's 50 against 50. Nobody's going to win. Unless you're going to get together and join forces, we ain't going to get nothing. Because one party or one people do not have all the answers. If everybody get together and put their heads together, Guyana will start moving upward, and that is what we want.
All right. Tell me one more thing. Now we're seeing Venezuela. Now, putting this into consideration, when Barajagio was in government, he made a proposal to give away, to ask our country a piece of our land in Venezuela. What's your thought? Yes, what's your thought now that the PPP is back in office and Venezuela is strengthening their claims on 3/4 of our country?
It looks suspicious. I do not know that Mr. Jagyo went and made a deal. From all indications, a deal was made. By whom? I cannot say. But Guyana and Venezuela, or British Guyana, England, and America settled this border crisis a long time ago. And in 1899 decision and arbitration, it should always be enforced. It is the only thing that is enforceable because Venezuela agreed to it, British agreed to it, as a result, Guyana fell into it. So we ain't going to change that. Venezuela does not own Essequibo.
What do we want?
Thank you.
When do we want it? Now. When do we want justice? When do we want it? Now. What do we want?
Yes, Mark. So as is right now, we gathered here, and the people are speaking with one voice. They're speaking in unity, and that is something we've been promoting for the Guyanese people, and we've been encouraging the Guyanese people to unite. Okay, to unite, come as one, and speak to the government in one voice. All right.
Let me ask you a quick question, Mr. Hollingsworth. Were you guys able to get a glimpse of Air Finale and his entourage this morning?
So go that again for me, Mark.
Were you guys able to get a glimpse of Air Finale?
No, because we were relocated by the police to this direction. We really and truly wanted to have a glimpse of him and to let him know that we're out here waiting to hear him talk trash at the United Nations. Because yesterday we saw him, and I'm telling you, the ancestors was out there, Mark. Our ancestors was at the United Nations, thumping him in the back of the head, trying to fool people and tell them about reparation. And his government and his country is in support of reparation for African people, when that same government is right now marginalizing those same African people. That same government is sending its squad to murder young black Guyanese. That same government, Mark, is out there looking for every black public servant that is in any influential position and trying to get rid of them. But yet still they're talking about reparations.
One of the things we've heard, and it's now coming in on our desk here, is that, and before we go back and have you let us hear the people there protesting, is that I heard that you guys may be heading down right there on 47th Street in front of the Ghanaian embassy, the embassy of Ghana, which is just a couple blocks away, right there on 47th Street. We will stay right here, but let's hear some of the people's views out there, Clinton. And thank you so much for this work that you guys are doing out there.
You're welcome, Mark. Excuse me. Yes, we have our intention of going down to the Ghanaian embassy because we heard that Ali Jack Dio is planning on going to Ghana. But well, we need the Ghanaian people and the president of Ghana to know that they're coming shaking hands with them, but they're treating our African brothers and sisters.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want?
So I don't know if you would have heard of it, but what is your thought in Jack Dio, the leader of an apartheid government, heading to Ghana to cut deal with the Ghanaian president?
This is it's a disrespect to the opposition. These guys are all about window dressing and farcical conduct. The opposition represents approximately 90% Afro-Guyanese. So if you want to reach with the opposition leader, how can you go all over the world meeting with black people? You're a phony. You have to meet with the opposition that's in your own country. If you refuse to meet with the opposition, then you are refusing to meet with 90% of the Afro-Guyanese in the country. So stop the BS. Call the opposition, sit down together. Let's work together as one people, one nation, one destiny. Let's live out our creed of one people, one nation with one common destiny. We need to end this racism right now. I got a message for Jagdeo, for Irfan, and all the other PPP persons. We will not be second-class citizens in our nation. We will not settle for second-class citizen status. Our ancestors slaved and built Guyana, and we are entitled to equal shares, equal opportunity in Guyana, and that's what we're out here fighting for justice. These hypocrites come to the UN, they talk one thing, they talk peace, but they're practicing murder, mayhem, discrimination, racism. They're seeking to overturn every black business, whether it be Likens Funeral Home, Sivon's Waste Management, every black business they're seeking to demolish and destroy. But they're coming to the UN as hypocrites and telling people here that they are for building one Guyana. One Guyana in it. When they say one Guyana, they mean one strong Indo-Guyana and a weak Afro-Guyana that must settle for the crumbs and leftovers. We're not having it, folks. I'll tell you right now, we're not having it, man. He's serious. This time, justice. No justice, no
peace. Thank you. What are your thoughts on Ali and the PPP at the United Nations promoting reparation for Afro-Guyanese, but are treating Afro-Guyanese in a manner in which they're treating them in Guyana?
As far as I'm concerned, for the past 22 years, they have been doing the same. They have lost power, they regain power, and continue on present day. And speech that you give about African surveillance is not relevant because they just came here and telling people about Afro-Guyanese. They just want the United Nations and the president of the world to see that they are representing Afro-Guyanese, but in Guyana they are killing us out. They have no regard for black people back home. And I think that whosoever install that the legal government, they should uninstall them. That's my concern. And let's all become as one people, one nation, one destiny as it used to be. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mark. So we're getting, we're getting the thoughts of everybody. What is happening here as usual? For the folks who are working in the Manhattan area, they're actually coming out. They spend 15, 20 minutes and then they would have left and went back.
We are backing them. We are backing them. We are backing them.
You want to say something?
I really good mention.
That's the protest currently happening in front of the UN headquarters, 47th Street and First Avenue. I'm told that they are going to be heading down after this. They will be heading down in front of the Ghanaian embassy, the consulate office of Ghana, because Ekonadi announced that Larry Jabdir will be heading to Ghana sometime the 1st in October. So yes, yes, go ahead, sir.
I'm seeing some convoys starting to pass.
Yeah, you can swing your camera so our listeners and viewers. Sorry, most of our viewers can.
Yes, I'm seeing some convoys starting to come down this way. We'll try to as soon as they head down, we'll try to catch them and bring a view. Let Irfan Ali know that the people are out here and we're not supporting them and their wickedness.
I think you already know that you folks are out there. If you can go on the other side to face the folks out there with the Guyana flag, that would be a good picture. So people.
They're not going to allow us outside.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not allowing us beyond the barricade.
Wherever you can get a good shot of the crowd, let people throughout Guyana see what is happening, and that people in the U.S. are standing up for against injustices that's happening out there in Guyana. Let the people see that in Guyana that they have full support from all of us, whether in the U.S. or other parts of the world.
Yes, guys, as is right now. The Guyanese installed president, man.
Yeah, this is the United Nations headquarters. You're seeing here. Usually, Secret Service agents and other security personnel, they would escort the leaders to the General Assembly chamber. Last couple times I know President David Otto Granger walked over from his hotel straight to the UN headquarters. But we're not seeing Irfan Ali doing that at all. We're just not seeing that. And so, Mr. Hollingsworth.
Yes, Mark.
You guys haven't gotten a glimpse of Guyanese officials there? Not even the Guyana UN ambassador? No one?
No one, because of our location. Now, what is happening? We're downstream from the UN building.
Okay.
So we cannot see anybody. But what was happening? A few of the convoy would have passed by. And as you can see, somebody else is passing by here.
Okay.
Yes, Mark. So as they leave the UN, of which I would suspect that he's going to be leaving there anytime pretty soon, because he would have finished his speech. And how the traffic flows, Mark, they have to come this way. We may not see them coming in, but we'll see them going out. There's another delegation about to exit the UN compound.
Usually what they do as soon as they finish speaking, the speeches started on time, 9 o'clock. I'm surprised that their finale went that long, but let's hear what the crowd is saying here.
I think we have another. Mark, I could only, and along with myself, every other Guyanese here in the diaspora, we could only, do so much as to when it comes to encouraging our fellow Guyanese back home, all right, to step up their call for respect from the government, step up, demand that the government go according to the Constitution, let them be guided by the Constitution and stop doing things willy-nilly in Guyana. All right?
I'm being told by one of my sources within that Air Finale has already exited. He might have been in one of those vehicles. I'm not sure if you're hearing this.
Yes.
Air Finale has left the building. We got some photographs coming in. That's Maya Motley and Ralph Gonzalez, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Prime Minister with his very good friend, the Prime Minister Maya Motley, in the side there chatting. This is within the United Nations General Assembly there. So that's just a quick photograph. So what are some of, I know a lot of women are out there, and we get to hear some of them talk about what's really happening and how they feel about the injustices in Guyana.
Okay, Mark, I'll start with my sister right here. Oh, yes. Good morning, Mom. Do you mind, we're on Mark Benchcock's program. Would you like to tell us, the way you feel about things, how things are happening in Guyana since last August?
Well, since last August, I think hard for the things that happen in Guyana. Teachers out of job, nurses out of job, and people getting killed, Boston, and then they're selling out the lands up on the highway.
Okay.
Selling out all the lands on the highway, and they're not doing anything.
Okay. Thank you. Let me try to get somebody else, man. Good morning. We are on Benchcap program live here. We'd like to get your take on the way Afro-Guyanese are being treated in Guyana. And we see yesterday the installed president of Guyana talking about supporting reparation for Afro-Guyanese. After just a few days ago, we saw an Afro-Guyanese brother being murdered in his bed. Tell me, could you share the way you feel about it and the way things are going in Guyana?
Well, we know these are just talking points that their PR would have prepared to make them sound good in front of an international audience, but actions speak louder than words, and we know what the actions are in Guyana. It's our duty now to amplify what those real actions have been. And that's why we're here today.
And what's your word of encouragement to the Guyanese people who are sitting idly by back home in Guyana as this happened?
I don't think Guyanese are sitting idly by. They're living the reality.
They're living the reality, and we think they're living in fear. And that's why we here in the diaspora, take every opportunity that we
exercise here, and that's why we're out here exercising freedom that they don't necessarily have right now.
All right, I agree with what you would have said, and what steps do you think they should take as is now?
I don't know. I think that the issues in Guyana is very complicated right now. Right now, the whole vaccine mandate. Me and my mother were very pro-vaccine, and we agree that everyone needs to be vaccinated. But the way the Guyanese government has gone about this vaccine campaign, I think it's on purpose to breed mistrust. They don't want certain populations vaccinated. They want us to be disenfranchised. And so it's up to us to recognize what the larger messages are and react to those messages and come up with a smarter plan.
Yeah, and specifically, we are concerned about the Sputnik vaccines that is being distributed in Guyana. Sputnik has not been authorized by the World Health Organization. I have personally called the World Health Organization in Washington. They asked me to call Guyana's representative, Paho, in Guyana, which I've done. And every day I call, the security guard answers the phone and said they are closed. So there is no one there down in Guyana that we can, air our concerns concerning this Sputnik vaccine. I think the government shall pause on the use of this Sputnik vaccine until we have gotten clear and precise, information on the efficacy of the vaccine. That is why we are here. We're concerned about the vaccine that is being distributed in Guyana.
All right, because that was my next question coming to you guys. Because Trinidad would have said they're not recognizing Sputnik vaccine, and we all know that the US doesn't recognize the Sputnik vaccine. Now, this vaccine that they're giving, if the US do not recognize it, how are people expected to enter the US with these vaccines? So I would support your call for them to pause the distribution of that Sputnik vaccine.
We all know how things work in Guyana. Certain people will be able to get the better vaccines, and they'll be able to do what they need to do, travel to where they need to travel. Other people will be given the Sputnik vaccine.
I mean, it was said to me last evening that people are actually encouraged to go to the US Embassy and request I think it's the Pfizer vaccine, that people are allowed to go to the US Embassy and request it.
That Moderna that they brought in and they're giving to them.
Canada.
Teachers and nurses, why did they do that? They're more important populations for the front line. Instead, they're forcing on children. And the parents aren't even convinced of it. So why would they do that? Why would they give some populations that are more on the front line and could definitely make use of a tested and proven vaccine like Pfizer?
All right, thank you very much for your work.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Hollingsworth, you guys will be heading in front of the Ghanaian embassy sometime very soon, right?
Yes, Mark. That is one of the discussions that we've been having since the announcement of that trip to Ghana. So that is one of the discussions we've been having.
As you guys know, the Ghanaian embassy is right there on 47th Street. It's just a couple blocks away. It's a nice walking distance. It'll be nice to see you guys spread out in front of that embassy, or at least where the embassy is located in that area.
We're on Market Stop. I thought he was supposed to be away. No, he's actually covering it from Israel. So wait. Well, he wants to hear people's views. People share their views with Guyana and Ali here at the United Nations. So as is right now. So he's coming on, right? All right. So we have another Guyanese brother here.
I heard he asked. In fact, he said that I'm supposed to be out there, but next time you'll see me there, my friend. But good job. We are all proud of you guys.
Yeah, all right. So he's not hearing because I have you in my headset. Oh. But he's saying he heard you asking, and the next time he's going to be answering. So what are your thoughts on Ali at the UN yesterday talking about reparation and looking back at Guyana? Looking and seeing what is happening to our public servants, seeing the cane cutters getting preferential treatment, and as soon as they take to the streets, their demands are being answered. All right, and as soon as public servants call for something, they're never being compensated on what they called for. But now,
first of all, it took a while to figure out he was talking about reparations. Once I figured out that's what he was talking about, and he's talking about, I guess going after the international community to support reparations for Guyanese whose foreparents were enslaved. But to your question about what's currently happening with civil servants, it seems to me that you want to address that first, right? That is the current issue that is hurting Black Guyanese and the injustice and unfairness that's going on, and the racism, frankly, it's affecting Guyanese currently. So we need to deal with that first before we attack the bigger, larger issue that's going to take time to get the international community on board. Every Black person everywhere in the world except Africa, and to some extent maybe even Africa, is looking for reparations. That's a major issue. Right now we have issues relating to people, 2,000 plus people who've been pushed out of their jobs summarily. People who are not getting these handouts that the government is giving. People are not getting their hampers. People who are suffering in Guyana. I think that is what needs to be addressed immediately. Thank you.
Yep, good job.
That's one of our Guyanese scholars he's a professor at one of the very recognized universities out here in New York City, and he's out there in support of what is happening.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Mr. Hollingsworth. I'm not sure how much longer you guys are going to be out there, but any idea as to when you guys are going to walk over to the Ghanaian embassy? I'm sorry that I keep sticking to that because I would love to see that scene.
Well, I can't give you a direct time, Mark, but when I get off here, I'll talk to our organizers, to the rest of the team, and as soon as that is confirmed, I'll give you an update.
All right. I hope you guys, because it's just a couple of blocks away, send that message to the people of Ghana. Let them know what this installed regime is doing. Anything else quickly? Are we going to see the crowd? Because I see they're all scattered there. Great job, guys. Let the people all throughout Guyana and the world see the Guyanese people and their flags out there before the UN headquarters.
And as we can see, people are still trickling in there. You know, people are taking their break from their jobs out here in Manhattan to come and stand and give us the 5 or 10 minutes. There were just 3 individuals that came in, and they're on their lunch break, or they're gonna give us that 20 minutes and then head back to work. I mean, there are some that are still here who, you know, supposed to be at work, but they don't want to come on the camera because they believe in what is happening here and they want to give their support.
We're getting some photographs coming in as to some of the flyers out there. We're seeing that all blacks fired by the PPP, no reason, and a bunch of photographs of those individuals who would have been fired as a result of their ethnicity and political affiliation.
Yes. I'm gonna just share a few of. All right, somebody had to. Granny's hat just fly by. Let me see if yes. All right, steady it so we could get a.
There must be more free and stop murdering our young people. Stop in the name of Jesus murdering our young people. And that vaccine that you give us, that Sputnik vaccine, make some arrangement that we can get the other vaccine.
The Pfizers and so on.
The Pfizer and the ones that and the Moderna. And it's a terrible thing that we had one vaccine and now we have to get another one. And the health minister needs to go for that. He needs to go.
Thank you.
We are not those people that because of the they're part of this spread the lies of those guns and call them something. But they keep looking at these people. Look, we have mothers and fathers and you see no Indianism. You can fire you talking about equality as well as the United Nations. And we have almost I think 1,500 or more.
2,000. So what we're looking at here, all right, what we're looking at here is just a part of the list of our black professionals that were targeted by the PPP, okay? And not just fire them, but they're trying to tarnish these people's reputation by passing them through the court. You know, right away I can pick out Mr. Trevor Ben, who would have worked for this same UN for I don't know how many umpteen years, okay, with a clean slate, a clean record. But as soon as the PPP gets into office, we're trying to pass this man through the courts and tarnish his reputation. All right, so just take a look, guys, at just take a look at the faces, and these are just some of the faces that are targeted by the PPP. The racist PPP. And that's the thing, educated individuals. So, guys, as I was saying, you know, we're seeing the PPP targeting our young, energetic, professional black folks for dismissal and all of these stuff from the public sector and all of these places, but yet still they're coming here and they're dismissing these young black brothers and sisters without any explanation as to why they're being dismissed otherwise than being black or being suspected of being in support of the coalition government. All right, and to our Hindu brothers and sisters who are being targeted the same way by this PPP, as long as an Hindu brother or sister decides to stand up and tell the PPP that Guyana is a country for all the people and not just one, those Hindu brothers and sisters are targeted the same way. So we're seeing the reintroduction of an apartheid state, a police state, all right, a racist state by this government. Whenever the PPP is in office, that is what they do. They promote racism. Mark, as you can see, people are still coming, even though Ali would have finished speaking. But after I get off of this program, we'll be talking to everyone and heading over to the Ghanaian embassy, even if we have to go over there and protest, even if it's for half an hour.
Or even,
we need to get down there.
Or even 10 minutes.
Or even 10 minutes.
The fact that you guys would be in front of the Ghanaian embassy is sufficient. Their senior diplomats here will get the message.
Yes, yes.
What paraphernalia they're saying when they're outside of Guyana is totally different. The reality on the ground in Guyana is different. They are discriminating against people. They are being vindictive. They are persecuting people. And most of those folks, as you have said, are persons of African descent.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, all right, Mark, seeing that Ali would have left already, I will take my leave of you now and organize to head to the embassy.
All right, do what you got to do, and as soon as we get word back from you guys on the ground, we're going to go live with you guys in front of the embassy there of Ghana. Thank you so much. Thank all those folks. Great job, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Well, you guys heard the speech, right? I don't know, certainty. You guys heard the speech. The first slip up, certainty. I wasn't certain, but I know that I heard correctly. Certainty. Certainty. If it is what I heard, I actually heard, and I'm wrong about what I heard or what I thought I heard, well, you guys tell me, but I know that I heard certainty. Certainty. That's a new word. Certainty. Now let me check some of your comments. Did you hear certainty, or is it only me? If it's only me, fair enough. Tell me that I'm wrong. I heard incorrectly, that it wasn't that. It wasn't certainty. But I know that I heard certainty. For certain, for sure. Certainty. Certainty. Corinne Day, you heard that too, right? Okay. Lily Magarel, you heard that as well. Certainty. About his speech now, you can tell that he was nervous. You can tell that he rehearsed that a couple times on the toilet, in front of the mirror, in the shower, if in fact that happened. I'm talking, yeah, he did rehearse. What they did also, they changed that speech up. They removed some of the big words, some long words. They removed that, right? They removed the long words and try to make it very, very simple for him. And even in the simple format, he wasn't able, because when you're giving a speech, you must be able to have eye contacts with the people, eye contact, so that they can feel as though you are talking to them. You're talking to the audience there in the General Assembly. You're talking to your colleagues, your counterparts, so to speak, and you're talking to the audience because thousands of people are watching. And you want to have that eye contact. You want them to see that, yes, when you talk, you're talking directly to them. But we know deep down in his heart, he doesn't mean 95% of the things that he spoke of concerning Guyana, concerning unity, and all these different things. Because back in Guyana, they're practicing apartheid, racism, you name it, discrimination at every level. Look how many people, hundreds of people have died as a result of the coronavirus. Yet there's no proper policy in place. All these things happening. But look, I know you guys have stuff to do. I'm going to wait on those folks on the ground in front of the UN headquarters there in Manhattan to head over to the Ghanaian embassy and let us see what happens from there, because that message must get out to the people of Ghana. I know a lot of people there. They should not sit and accept any form of negotiations with the installed regime, the racist regime in Guyana. In case you guys missed it, let's get to his speech so you guys can know exactly what happened yesterday.
I'm pleased to participate in today's commemoration. Guyana is committed to gaining international reparations for the crime of African enslavement. Reparative justice must not only include a full and unconditional apology from those responsible and or who benefited from the transatlantic trade in captive Africans and their consequent enslavement, must go beyond apology. In this regard, Guyana will continue to support the efforts being made within the Caribbean community to press for the convening of an international summit to demand reparative justice for the victims of the transatlantic slave trade.
We can just imagine what Jack Dave did to him after that speech. We can only imagine. I didn't do it. It's the operator. I didn't say anything. It's the operator. Your mind. It's all in your mind as to what really happened there after the speech. I don't know who is who, but it's up to you guys to interpret what just happened there in that short video with the donkey and the hog. The donkey and the hog. I don't know. I've got to go though. If there's anything, once they're in front of the Ghanaian embassy there in Manhattan, we will bring that live so that you can get to see what's happening there. And I'm urging you guys to call the Ghanaian embassy. Call them up. Call them. In fact, I called them yesterday. You guys should call them as well and let them know what is happening in your beautiful country. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from you. Let me take a quick break, and in fact, let me take this call, and I'll be right back.
I'm pleased to participate in today's commemoration. Guyana is committed to gaining international reparations for the crime of African enslavement. Reparative justice must not only include a full and unconditional apology from those responsible and or who benefited from the transatlantic trade in captive Africans and their consequent enslavement, must go beyond apology. In this regard, Guyana will continue to support the efforts being made within the Caribbean community to press for the convening of an international summit to demand reparative justice for the victims of the transatlantic slave trade.
All right, I guess we have to go. Our operator has signaled to me that we have to go. We really do have to go. Beautiful Guyana, man. We've got to pray for that beautiful country. We really do have to do just that. I'll see you guys later on. God bless.
It's hard, it's hard, it's hard to be at peace with the ones who are so discard. It's hard, it's hard, it's hard. Them have a knife in your back and them smile it so broad. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd a shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. Cause the booby traps with them set is real. I never want to take your glory, Lord. Send your angels to encamp around about me and stand guard. To envy is so easy and to love it is so hard. Let me work for your glory and not for the award. Don't make me ever get caught up in the scream and the applause and go talk about the blessing and not talk about the Lord. All these things are vanity. I need your reward. Let me be real. Don't put on no facade. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them give me flesh when the crowd a shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. Cause the booby traps with them set is real. Sticks and stones can break my bones and words can harm me. They can harm me. When the evil come against me, you'll protect me. You'll protect me. Father, I need the strength of your son. Cause you know my work is not done. Lord, I need that endurance just to finish this race that I run. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. And help me to deal with the fans them